Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm colouring up this beautiful image by Jade Summer from their new book Baby Dragons. I hope you enjoy it. I'm colouring it on Express It blending card and I'm using COPIC markers. Let's pop in and have a look. Welcome back guys. I have printed up my image on an A5 size piece of Express It blending card and I'm using Copic markers today. Just want to mention too that the color charts are available on Patreon and they do have the color conversions to pencil as well, so make sure you check them out. I'm going to pop through now and we'll get started. So today I'm going to do a little bit of a I guess a sunset color in the background, but still have that shining sun sort of halfway up on the horizon there. So to start with, I'm going to just blend out a little bit of this Y11 on and behind the dragon here, and I'm also going to use this to put some highlights on parts of the dragon that would have little reflections of light on them through the trees. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this in now. If you're not interested in this full version, I have done a speed colouring of this one as well, so you can pop over there. I'll pop the link in the description as well. So now I'm going to bring in the Y000 and I'm going to go over the top of the Y11, just blending that out towards the outer edges. Now we're trying to keep this in a circular motion because it is the sun. So the darkest part of the sun area would be right in the middle, which is behind the dragon's head. So I'm just sort of going out in a circular motion around that. So this color here is now base color for the next color that I'm putting on, which is Y000. So I'm just going over the top of that previous color and just sort of pushing that color in towards the middle there. But I want the blend nice and smooth, so that's why I did the lighter yellow first. So I'm just going to come out in a circular motion and put this color in and around the dragon and start to sort of blend this out towards the trees more. So I'm going to use YR00 now just to start to darken that colour up a bit, and we're going to go into the last colour, which will be pink. So that'll be a darker colour again. So we've sort of got that nice sunset colours coming through from the middle to the outside edge. So now I've done that, I just want to use that YR000 just to sort of blend those two colours in together a little bit more. So now I'm just using the same markers that I've used, but I'm just using them now to try and get a nice smooth blend between the colours. So I'm just doing the YR000 now. Okay, so now I'm bringing in that R21 and I'm just doing all around the outside edges and bringing this in towards that orange color. So I kind of want them to blend in a little bit at the same time. So I'm just going back over the top of that YR color just to sort of give that a nice smooth look and get that looking like it's going from light to dark. Okay, so now I can see that there's still some lines there, so I want that to blend nicely. So I'm coming in with YR00 to go over the top and just bring that over the top of that pink and extend that further out towards that middle section again. So we're wanting it to sort of blend nice and smoothly. I don't want too much of a defined line there. So just coming back in with that YR000, the lid kept falling over there, and just going back in and extending all this over the top of all of the colour just to give that blend. So with markers we like to sort of build up the colour, but at the same time what we're trying to do is smooth out the transitions between the different colours. So we're coming back in now with that Y000 and just smoothing off again over the top of all of the colour coming out towards that dark area. Now I did have a little bit of trouble, I didn't heat set my ink, so it did smudge a little bit in some spots. So now we're coming back in with that Y11 and coming out over the top of all of these highlight areas, and I'll just bring it out from the middle a little bit as well, so just to create a little bit of reflection off these areas, because the sun's sort of peeking through the trees there's going to be some glimmer of sun on the dragon as well. So I've got the R21. I could still see a little bit of a line in this section here, so I wanted to sort of blend that out a little bit more. So I've just brought that R21 back in just to sort of fix that up a little bit. So there was still a bit of a defined line and I wanted to sort of remove that. So I'm using the Y000 now to just sort of fill out and hopefully blend that together a little bit more. I've got YR000 now and going over the top of that again. So what I'm trying to do is just get rid of that defined line, which it has worked a little bit more. Once that's dried off, you won't be able to see it as much. And then I'm just going to come back in with Y000 again, just to go over the top of that again and get it nice and smooth. So I'm actually quite happy with that. Sometimes that happens though, I'll have a look at it or step back from it and have a better view, and I can see where it's not quite blended in or whether it needs more defining and things like that. So it is good to have a play around with it and make sure that you've got it right so that you're happy with it in the end. So now I'm just deciding what colours to do for the dragon. Now I wanted to have a blue-green colour, so I've decided to go with the BG range. So I've got BG09 and I'm going to come into all of the shadow areas. Now I'm going to try and miss the areas that I've already coloured with yellow because I want them to stay bright as the highlight reflections. So I'm going into all of the areas where it would be really quite dark. Now just remembering that the sun's actually on his side there that we can't see, so most of the colour on this side of the dragon would actually be quite dark. So after filling out the BG09 I find that it's not quite dark enough, so I have to come in with a grey colour. So I use tone grey 6. You could use cold grey or warm grey, whatever you had, just something darker like that, just to go back into those shadow areas and get the depth and darkness that you actually need. So I do have a play around with it and go over it a couple of times just to get the depth and the colour that I wanted in this side of the dragon. So as I was going along, I thought the tail needed to have some highlights as well. So I've actually done both sides of the tail. Because it's lifted off the ground, some of that light would be reflecting underneath as well. So I've popped that underneath the tail as well. Now I haven't made this reflection as bright as some of the others because it is still closer to the ground anyway. But I've just gone in with the Y11 and just done that. And I'm just going over a few of those highlight areas on the grass as well, just to add that in too. So just on the right hand side of those things that are facing towards the sun, I've added this highlight onto. So just going back in now with that BG09 to finish off those shadow areas. So I'm just flicking my marker out towards the edge of each sort of section just to make sure that the next colour does blend in nice and smoothly. So I've just swapped over to BG07. I'm just blending this out a little bit further, and you can see that I'm using that same flicking motion out so that the next color does come through and blend in nicely with it. Just remember that this is only the first layer because we're going to come back in with that darker gray and give it more depth. So you can see now with the BG07 that I've gone in a fair distance with this color and colored up most of the areas. I'm going to come in now with BG05 and cover over the remaining area, just leaving a small little section there for the last color, which was BG01, just to sort of blend back into that highlight a little bit more. So I'm just going over all of these sections, and you'll be able to see that it'll start to desaturate, and the darker colors will start to lose their depth as we go over this. And that's why I've decided to come in with those deeper colors to just deepen those things up. So just swapping out to BG01 now and going over the remaining area that hasn't been done, and I'm also going over the previous colors as well just to smooth that off nicely. So don't stress about if you can still see a little bit of blending marks, because once we go in with those darker colors it's going to change it up a bit anyway. This will kind of be your base layer. So before moving on to the second layer, I'm going to use some V colors to do the extra areas here. So we've got the horns under the ears and also the toes there I'll do as well. And just a little bit on the chest too, underneath the fur or hair that's there. So I'm just using this in the shadows. I'm going to come back in a little while and put in a little bit of V17 to make it a little bit darker. Sometimes I like to start light just to see how the colors match together and things like that as well. I'm just blending that out now with some V12. So just going over the top of the previous colour and making it sort of blend nicely together. I've also done the spots as well. I didn't mention that a second ago, but and the wings. So just coming in now, so you can see that there's a little bit of depth in the wings, but we will go in with a second layer just to deepen it up. And I'm also putting it on the claws down the bottom here. So I'm just going to come in with some V40 and just pop in over the top of that again, just to lighten it off right on those edge bits. So this is just going to go over those yellow highlights a little bit, but I'm going to come back in and put that yellow back on to just brighten it up a little bit. So I've got some B66 and I'm going to do the hair or the fur that's around the outside here. So I'm just kind of lining it in, putting a couple of lines or flicks through to give it a little bit of texture. And I'm going to come back over that in a moment with some B63 to just blend that out and give it a little bit of highlight. I wasn't sure if it was fur or if it was hair, so I've kind of had it as a bit of hair, so that's why I've put the lines in there to create that texture. So swapping over now to the B63, and I'm just treating it like it is hair, so from one side flicking out towards the middle and then from the other side flicking back up towards the middle. So we've got that little bit of a highlight reflection in the middle. So now I'm going to start to refine the dragon and get the colour that I want. So I've got V15 just down here on the toes just to make those shadows a little bit darker. I don't think I actually filled them in before, so I have now. Using some V12. Now I've decided that it wasn't quite dark enough, so I will come back in again with some V17 and deepen those up. That was the V40 just going in on the top of that to pop in those highlights. So now just to refine and define those highlight sections a bit more, I've got that Y000 just coming back over the top of the colours I've gone in with on the lighter sections and going back over the top of the highlights that I had left there. So this is just really to make that blend in a little bit and to make it stand out a little bit more as well. So I was actually having a discussion here with my daughter who was watching over me as I was colouring and trying to figure out what colours to do in the eyes. So because I wasn't sure where the whites and the colour should be and things like that, I just wanted to sort of have somebody else's perspective on that, and I managed to do the eyes. So I did B06 with the darker sides, and then I did B02 towards the middle of the highlight bit there as well. I've got the C3 there for the shadows of the whites of the eyes, and then C0 to blend over the top of that, just to sort of give it a little bit of a round look. And I'm using the colorless blender to sort of blend that out nice and smooth, so it's not too dark and defined. When I come over with gel pen at the end, I'm going to cover over that black defined line that makes that circle in the highlight spot as well, because I feel that it doesn't need to be there. So I've got V12 for the flowers, so I have just gone over all of the petals with these. I'm going to use some V15 to put in a little bit of shade, and then some Y13 for the middle of the flowers. So not too much detail here, just a line in the middle for the shadow. And then we're going to do that Y13 for the middle section. I'm also going to put some of the Y11 and Y000 into the edges of that front top flower there, just to put in a little bit more highlight onto it. So I just popped a little bit of B02 into the middle of those, just to put a little bit of depth in and some I guess some detail. So this is where I've decided that the dragon wasn't quite dark enough and I needed to go in, but as I started to put this colour in, it was really quite dull, and I really wanted it really dark and deep. Now I have a couple of other BG colours that are darker, but I wanted to stick with the same colour, so all I've done is pop in some grey instead. I'm using tone grey here. You could use cool grey or warm grey, whatever you've got, just to come in and just darken up those shadow areas. So you can see that it's starting to sort of blend out and not really be as defined as what it could be, so that's why I've decided to do that. So here I've brought in that tone grey 6 or toner grey, and I'm just going into the shadow areas and placing this in. So I'm kind of flicking it out as well, so that when I put that BG09 back over the top, it's going to blend in nicely as well. Okay, so now we've done that, I'm going to go back over the top with the BG09. So now I've got a lot of depth going on, and I'm quite happy with how the colour's starting to transition from dark to light now. So now I'm going to blend that out with the BG07. So I'm going a little bit further out now, and you can see already just by the back of the tail here how much darker that is, and I really like how that effect is. So I'm just going to continue on to blend this all the way out to the lighter colors again. So this will be our second layer now over the top of the previous colors. So you can see now that this is actually shrinking our highlight area a little bit further down, and it's creating more depth in the dragon. I've swapped over to BG05 now to go over the top of the previous colors. So you can see that the gray, you can't tell that it's gray and not blue in there because we've gone back over it with that BG09. Just using this BG05 just to cover everything up, and we've just got that last color, the BG01, and that's really just to help us to transition from this color out towards that really highlighted section. So I've got BG01 now, and I'm just repeating over the top of the previous colors now and extending them further out over the top of those darker areas as well. And we'll grab back in that yellow just to sort of brighten up that highlight again as well. So now that I've darkened up the dragon, the colour in the ears with the purple isn't quite deep enough, so I've come in with V17 to do a shadow on those purple areas now. So we're now going to continue to blend that out with V15. And then we've got some V12 to go over the top of that again. Just got some colour in the eye there, so I'm just using the colorless blender to push that colour back out again, make that nice and smooth. So now we've done that, I feel we need to darken up these hair areas as well, so I've got the B66 again. Just using the V12 up on the top there just to sort of get that blend a little bit smoother. And I've got the Y000 there going over the top of those colours and sort of transitioning those colours from that highlight into the colour, making sure that they're nice and bright now. So I'm just starting on the mushrooms now. I'm going to use some E08, and the lid on this one is terrible and I do need to replace it at some stage, but it is E08. So I'm coming in onto the shadow sides and underneath sort of the dots on these toadstools here to fill those out. I've also put, as you can see on the ones at the top near the highlighted areas, those ones have got yellow already on them because they've got a highlight reflecting from the sun there on them already. We're going to put a little bit of grey in here underneath the spots on these ones just to sort of make them look like they're popping off and more 3D. So I've got the W9 for that, just underneath a line underneath, just to sort of bring them forward a little bit and make them look like they're popping off the page, or off the toadstool I should say. And I'm also putting this a little bit into those shadow areas as well. I've got some E15 next. I'm coming over the top of the previous colour and extending it further out, also over the top of the grey there as well. So I want to just sort of keep them red brown looking. So I'm going to bring some YR04 in to go over the top of these colours and sort of make that a little bit brighter. So I've got the YR04. I'm just making sure I stop short of those highlighted sections up the top there as well. Just filling in the rest of the colour on these bottom ones here. So I've got a little bit of depth and shade through them. For the spots, we're actually going to use a brighter colour. I've also done this YR04 on the underneath parts as well. So for the stalks, I'm going to use E55. Sort of just doing it to the left side on those top ones because we've still got those highlights to come in. And I'm not too worried about this side. I'm just sort of filling most of that area in. I've got the Y11 to come over the top of that and blend that all out. So we're trying to stick with the theme of having highlights through the whole area. So I just finished off the mushrooms at the top there, made sure they were blended in nicely with the other colour. Just putting a little bit on the tops of these ones as well, just to sort of have the colour in there as well. So here I'm just fixing up that flower, just lightened it up a little bit more with the yellow. We're going to start on the grass now, so I've got some G07 and I'm just going in to line one side of the grass, usually that's facing away from the sun. So I'm putting some depth and texture through now by using the G29. So just going back into these stems and the grass there and just popping a little bit deeper. Now underneath here I've put a little bit of flicks out towards the ground or the dirt section as well, because the grass is sitting sort of in that, it'll be like a patch on the ground. So just going in now with that G29. So bringing in now the lightest green, I've got the G14 and I'm just going over the top of the remaining areas. I will sort of flick through some yellow on these as well, just to have a little bit of reflection from the sun as well. So coming in with Y11 and just colouring over the top of all of the previous colours there and just putting in that yellow reflection. You can see I've sort of messed over the top of the grass areas. I'm not worried because it's going to be dark or brown anyway, so that'll blend in. I've got some Y04 for the tops of all of the toadstools and the little circle parts as well. I'm going to leave a little section or patch at the top of each one just to sort of lighten them off a bit with that YR04, just to make sure that's nicely blended in. You could put also a white gel pen, you could put a little reflection on each of those as well if you wanted to. Just clearing off my pile of markers there. I'm using E55 for the ground. I'm going to try and put in a bit of a shadow after I finish. You can't really see it that much, but the attempt was there. Just coming in and around and popping this into the darker areas. My actual E55 marker's running out, so it's not as dark as it probably could be. So I have got an ink now, so I will replace it. So just going over the areas I've just done and extending them a little bit further, I'm putting on some E33 now. So I've just sort of created this as a little bit of sand or dirt. So the next few colours we're going to do over the whole area. So I'm using E31 first, just to go in over the top of all of those shadows as well, but just sort of blending that in nicely. So now I'm going to use a Y11, and I'm going to use this to go over the whole area. So I'm putting some of that bright sun color into the ground, and then I'm going to come over the top of that again with some YR000. So now putting that YR000, which gives us that peach color over the top again. So just helping to sort of bring the picture all together. So I've got the rocks to do. I'm going to do the dark parts or back facing parts of the rocks in all W9. So I'm just going to go and fill those out now. So this is the shadow side of the rock. So I was quite happy to sort of fill that in with the dark grey. You could even use black if you wanted to, or any darker colour actually would look fine in here. You could use a cool grey even as well. So I'm just doing that on the top ones as well. So I'm going to put some W7 on the front facing part now. I'm going to do this lower at the bottom of the rock where it's darker. So I'm just blending that out now in W5. So you can see that I also put it over those little spots on that rock as well. So I'll colour those in with a bit of green. I'm coming sort of to the edge, but not quite to the edge on these front rocks, because we're going to put a bit of a highlight on there with the yellow. So I've got W3 to finish off that, and as I said, I'm leaving just the edge parts on these top ones just so I can put that yellow highlight in. So on the back rocks there, I didn't put as much of it on because they are in the dark. I've got Y11 coming over the top of those rocks just to sort of pop that highlight in, and just a tiny bit on those. I just used the G29 again just on the top of the rocks there as well. I've left the little pebbles on the road part there lighter coloured, so they're sort of gone over them with a bit of yellow and a bit of the YR000, but I've left them nice and light. I'm coming in now with E71 and I've just run out of marker, so I'm going to replace or refill that marker in a sec. But just coming over the whole area of the tree, so this is our base layer. You can see that that marker's almost gone now. So I'm just going to quickly fill that. Okay, so I'm just coming back over now just to fill that in. It's much better. So the reason I'm doing this first layer is because I want to build up my shadows from the sides of each of the trees into the lighter areas. And this also too will stop me from going over those really bright highlighted sections that I wanted to keep really light. So I'm just popping that in now. I'm being quite rough because we are going to go over it with the darker colours as well. Okay, so now we're going to try and create some depth and give it a three-dimensional look and make it look like there's things closer and further away from us. So I'm using E79 here right at the front on this dark side of the tree. I'm just going to go up and put this on each of the dark sides of the tree. Now I'm also going to line out some of the lines. So the artist has already drawn some lines in there. I'm just going to line on some edges of those as well to help with blending out to the lighter colours. So now I've done that, you can see on the tops there I've also done some flicking motions as well to help blend in this next colour. I've got E77 and I'm coming over the same areas that I've already done and just making these a little bit larger and extending that colour a little bit further and closer towards that highlighted side of the tree. So I'm going to continue that over the remainder of the trees as well. So you can see with what we've done, it's already starting to look really 3D. So I've got E74 and I'm coming in and just extending this further out towards that highlighted color. So this will be the last color. I'm going to come in and blend over the top with the yellow as well. I may even bring some E71 in again just to sort of lighten off those edge bits. But you can see I've been quite rough because I wanted that texture through the tree as well. So I've come back in with the E71 and just neatened off those areas, making sure I stop short of that yellow. And now we're just finishing off the finishing touches. So Y11 in these areas, and maybe a little bit of Y0000 as well. And that just blending off and softening off that edge part there as well. So I'm going to use a white gel pen. I'm going to put some little sparkles all over that make it look like a little bit like bugs or fair lights or whatever around him. So I'm going to pop those in as well, and also pop a little bit of highlights on the eyes and a couple of areas as well, just to make them pop. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Remember that the 1000 subscriber giveaway is still going until the 4th. The major prize draw is going for a little bit longer, so you will have a little bit more time for that. I'll pop all the details in the description, and also the end dates and things like that, so you can see that, just in case you're watching us in the future and it's already been and gone. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, please pop in and check the links out down the bottom. And if you have any questions, as I said, don't hesitate to ask. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to doing the next one for you. Thanks, guys.